The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
The radio show is about to begin. It might just ring a bell. Live local music with your host Al Weissman. It's in a nutshell.
First band together around 19 or well 17 in Florida actually, and flailed about, playing locally. Moved to Nashville in the 90s. Got signed to a label down there, small independent label, and suddenly I found myself opening for people like Charlie Daniels, but still grinding away at the local bars in Nashville and whatnot, and bought some land out there. Record label went to hell and came back to Illinois, which is where I was born, not born but raised. I was born in Marion, Indiana, and here I've been ever since, touring. I've written 4 novels. I've got 6 albums under my belt. My new one is The Legend of Tyler Doohan, and it's a fictional account. The title track is about a little boy in upstate New York who saved 6 of his family members in a trailer fire. 3 of them, I believe, 2 or 3 were his siblings. And I really, it really drove the inspiration for this album. I'm going to be doing some of those songs today. So I guess that's kind of like a brief biography in a nutshell.
Okay, cool, very cool. I like your nutshell.
Hey, yeah, that's right, in a nutshell. I didn't even think of that when I said that. That's the name of the show.
Do you think you could knock off a tune for us?
Let's do it. I'm going to do the title track I was just telling you about.
Okay.
The Legend of Tyler Doohan.
Upstate New York, family slept in the trailer burn. A young kid say the most I'm told him back inside for his granddad though. Trying to lift him from the bed, his flame burn hot and smoke got thick. He could have quit, run back outside, but the brave die hard on winter's nights. Yeah, too damn young, die man. This is the legend of Tyler Doohan. I'm saying the man his granddaddy was, Tyler was not strong enough. A kid like him don't want to hear when you tell me can't, that ain't his spirit. He struggled hard with all his might, his time ran on that winter's night. Both that on the bed, Tyler's all wrapped around his granddad. Yeah, too damn young, dumb man. This is the legend of Tyler Doohan. Ha! Now sometimes at night when the cold will chill, you can hear his voice from where over Penfield. Don't cry for me, you can hear him say, I just did my job and I went away. Yeah, a little kiss all I ever was, but I never quit when things got rough. When the night grows still, there ain't a sound. Summer over Penfield town. To the cold wind proclaimed throughout the land, this is the legend of Tyler Doohan. Legend of Tyler Doohan. The legend of Tyler
fast, but is the microphone placement good?
Yeah, it's good.
We're good right here?
Yeah, when you talk, you got to talk right into the mic. Otherwise,
How about when I sing?
but when you sing, you can
Because I
be a little
sing
bit-
like
yeah, no,
10
you're
times
fine.
louder than I talk.
I think that one.
Except when I'm arguing with my wife, then I'm probably talking 10 times louder than I sing.
I can tell the truth. Hey, listen. So Al Weissman, in a nutshell. Thank you so much, Pete Berwick. Very, very cool. I loved it.
Thank
you
you.
wrote that,
Yes.
and
Actually, Tyler wrote. I like to say that, you know, after I read about this tragedy, this heroic effort of Tyler, it was a tragedy, but it was heroism, you know, wrapped intertwined with tragedy. And when I read the news story, man, I just grabbed the guitar, and this thing just flowed out of me. I like to say I just held the pencil while Tyler wrote the song.
very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay, now, usually at the very beginning of the show, I go to this biographical stuff. So I'm going to ask you a few personal
Go
questions.
for it,
You've already
man.
answered. It sounds like you were born in Marion, Indiana.
Yes, I was. James Dean Country. That's where James Dean was born. My claim to fame.
And how old were you when you moved to Illinois?
Well, so about 1 year of age, I was whisked away to the East Coast where my father pastored a church for 5 years. So I was about 5 when my folks settled in Illinois.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Grew up in Elmhurst, actually.
is that where you spent most of your growing up time, was in Elmhurst?
Off and on. Then my first marriage, I ended up in Dallas, and then Florida for a couple of years, Nashville. So I've been back and forth East Coast. But yeah, if you did the math, most of my years were in, well, I wouldn't say Elmhurst, but all around different parts of Illinois. Now I live up here in Lake County, Chain of Lakes area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm only like 15 minutes from the studio.
What town is you?
Could have walked here.
What town do you live in?
Then I could have hit the bar on the way home. Wouldn't have to worry about a DUI. We got the cop station. You didn't tell me the cop station was right next door. I'm getting off track. I'm sorry about that. I would have worn a shirt. No. What was your question?
That's okay. How old were you when you
Never.
were exposed to your first incident?
How old was I when I was exposed? Your wife's over here filming. I think I got to behave myself. We're being filmed for television.
Yes, we are.
How old was I when I was exposed to
Your
music?
first instrument.
Oh, you know, as a kid, there was always a guitar lying around. I believe it was a guitar passed down from my grandmother.
Oh, really?
And so me and my brother would fight over it, you know, and so I'd pound on that thing. But I was a lefty, you know, and it was strung righty. So I was doing the Jimi Hendrix thing. I was learning the chords backwards, you know,
Okay.
like cutting your hair in the mirror.
Yeah.
Until eventually I got my own, you know, junky guitar at a garage sale or something, you know, put the strings on the way I liked them.
Okay.
And I carried around in my beater station wagon, and that was down in Florida as a teenager, and that's really where I cut my teeth. I just, you know, escaped to some orange grove or something and just pound on the thing, and you know, learning, you know, like what I think my first cover song was a BTO song, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you never took lessons?
You know, I took lessons for like 2 days from this classical guitar teacher, and I hated it because he was telling me, of course, everything I was doing was wrong. So I went to get a second opinion. Well, I never really did get that second opinion. The rest is history.
Well, when you were in high school, you didn't do anything musical?
Not in school, like no band, no choir. Total opposite of my daughter. She's very involved with band and music and choir and everything, but nothing. It was all I could do to survive the classes. You know, maybe a little church choir.
Okay. And you say you have one brother. Any other siblings?
Yes, I have a younger sister, Becky.
Is she musical?
Yeah, yes, she is. Yeah, she plays piano and various instruments, and she's a writer. She writes too. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How about your brother? Is he musical?
Yes.
Okay. And your parents?
My mother was always very musical. She's the one that instilled piano lessons on us, you know, all of us. And she played piano and she sang. And yeah, so, you know, I have one of my biggest regrets is quitting piano lessons, because I was becoming quite versatile in, you know, different, you know, waltzes, classical. I could sit down and, you know, just read sheet music. I can't even do that now. My daughter can. It's like math to me. And I remember finally when I got in, like, you know, junior high school, she said, look, I'm not going to force it on you anymore. You can quit if you want. So, of course, I did.
So how many years of piano lessons did you have?
Probably like from kindergarten through middle school.
That's a lot of piano
Back then it
lessons.
was called junior high, now it's middle school. Oh yeah, you know, once a week she'd have a teacher come in, or she'd teach, and it'd be, yeah, you know, it's one of my biggest regrets, because I could be making a damn good living on a cruise ship right now. Volare, whoa, you know, that kind of thing, you know, loud. Like I said, I'm just a song and dance man.
All right. So,
You know,
any
so-
other musical people in the family? Aunts, uncles, grandparents?
Oh, I don't know, you have to ask them, I'm not really in touch with a lot of them. You know,
Who were your early musical inspirations?
oh man, well definitely Dylan, you know. Yeah, Dylan to me is the genesis, ground zero of it all. Without Bob Dylan, I don't even know if I ever pick up a guitar.
Really?
You know, one of my first cassette tapes, you know, for those young people listening, that would be like the 60s. They're called cassette tapes. I still listen to them.
You can pay $20 now. They have those translated to CD.
Yeah. But yeah, Dylan, you know, it's Stones. I mean, Sticky Fingers, I wore that thing out. And it still sounds great. I put it on the other day and I realized, yeah, man, this thing really holds up. And that's kind of like the sound I went for on my new album, Legend of Tyler Doohan. I realized after, you know, I'd come back from Kansas City, the studio, recording it and everything, and we'd been going back and forth, me and the label and the producer, you know, and making sure everything's okay. And I listened to it so much, you know, you kind of become full of it after a while. You're just so sick of listening, but you have to. It's all part of you know, every. And then I put on Sticky Fingers and realized, man, that's kind of the sound that we got. Because when you listen to Sticky Fingers now, it's real raw, it's real live. You know, it sounds like they're just setting up in a living room, you know. And I think in a sense that's what they did. The Stones kind of had a way of recording live, you know. And of course you go back and fix the serious mistakes, and that's what we did with this album here. You know, Johnny Cash, as I got older, you know, I cut my teeth in the New York punk thing, the New York Dolls, and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed were inspirations to me in a lot of ways. They're poetic, dark, driving sort of, you know, thing that they were doing. It wasn't really called punk then until I think later on, you know, then the Ramones came along, loved them. And I've been doing the same kind of music, and then like, you know, when the first time I saw the Ramones, I thought they were my kids. I thought I'd given birth to these guys. I thought, yeah, that's the sound. You know, when I was really little, my mother will tell you, okay, so this would be like, you know, 63, 64, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, early 60s, mid 60s. I would walk around the house going, if everyone's listening, well, hopefully you are listening. That's me with my mouth. I had like this little Marshall stack in my head. I had this big amplifier in my brain. I would walk around going, you know, usually do da 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 da. My mother was thinking, do I take him to a therapist? Do I sell him to gypsies? What do I do here? I was creating punk rock in my head, you know. So a lot of my influences, man, it's like they're favorite bands of mine. You know, when I hear a band I really like, it's usually because I connect in a way like, oh yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, or that's what I could see doing, or I've been doing something similar, but these guys have taken it further and they're out there doing it, and then you just kind of like, it all comes together for you, you know. But,
Cool.
was that a really long answer to a short question?
Well, it was a short question, but they're always short questions, and the answers are oftentimes much longer.
Okay.
And after high school, did you pursue any further studies, or what did you do after high school?
Well, yeah, I took like a couple classes at college at DuPage. I think I flunked both the music. I couldn't handle it. It was like math class. I thought, yeah, I'll take music, and too many notes. As was that Amadeus? So I remember the guys, too many notes. Get rid of it. I couldn't handle it. And so I would leave the class and go right for the liquor store. Then I'd go home and pound them out. And so no, I didn't pursue much in the way of education. I took some music business classes, but this would have been, you know, 10 years after high school. I took some music business courses, but no college. School of hard knocks for me.
Okay. And I would ask you, could you play another?
I think your guy for your second hour shows is peeping through the window there. Okay. All right, you want to do another one?
Yes, please.
I got a little story with this. I wrote this with my good friend Joe Kent, and he's a very hardworking songwriter down in Louisiana. He's also a tugboat captain, Captain Joe Kent. Joe Kent. I said Joe, sorry for screwing up your last name if you're listening. And he wrote us this song. He co-wrote this. Joe and I co-wrote this song called "The Proof Is in the Whiskey," and you know, like a week after co-writing this with me or whatnot, he got a song on Hank Williams Jr.'s new album.
Cool.
So I'm so glad for him. The guy's been working hard, and it's called "The Party's On." That's the song Joe wrote that's going to be on Hank's. And it's funny, I only co-wrote like one or two other songs in my life, and one of them is on my Ain't No Train Out of Nashville album from recorded in '92, not released till 2007. We recorded that on my music label in Nashville. And that would be Rebels and Cadillacs. And that guy, Will Webb, went on to get a George Jones cut shortly after co-writing that song with me. So it seems like my co-writers have themselves a bit of luck.
Yeah.
All right, so this is called "The Proof Is in the
So
Whiskey."
you hear, to make some money, co-write a song with Pete.
There you go.
Here they go.
I'll get home and they'll be sitting on my doorstep. There's a trail of broken glass, lies scattered from the past. Shattered hearts, the broken dreams, promises I've trashed. So if justice ever finds me,
behind everything I am and the lies that left me blind. And if I turn away, it's 'cause there's nothing in my empty eyes to see. The proof is in the whiskey. As I stand accused, found guilty of abuse, I'm not the only evidence, 'cause I swear on your book of providence, don't put the blame on me. I'm just an accessory, it's not hard to see. Proof is in the whiskey. One set me free, has put the guilt on me. Proof is in the whiskey.
Yeah.
Much. I shortened that one up a little bit because that takes a D harp harmonica, and this thing that you see in my guitar rack, in my harmonica rack here, is totally blown. The reeds are just shot,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. So I thought I'm just gonna like skip the middle
Okay.
lead
Sounded
part.
pretty good.
Yeah, it's just an edited. I only edited like maybe 30 seconds out of it. You know.
In a nutshell, Al Weissman. That was Pete Berwick doing Proof is in the Whiskey. Great tune.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
Christopher Davidson of Mutiny Zine magazine wrote, "Imagine a rundown bar somewhere along the road, packed with truckers shooting pool, smoking and drinking beer. Someone is passed out in the men's room. A couple of guys are fighting in front, while others are playing stud or dancing with the local gals. The sound of the jukebox is more than likely to sound something like Pete Berwick." Does that song seem to fit the
Yeah,
it does seem to fit the songs you played so far today?
I'm listening to that quote. I thought you were describing my sex life for a moment there, but then I realized you're talking about my musical career. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Christopher, I really like that review. That really painted a nice dark and seedy picture, but I'll take it. Dark and seedy is my middle name.
Well, it seems to be gritty and country and all the
I just try to write them and sing them from the heart. You know, it's you know, within my capabilities. Pavarotti, I'm not, and the good old Candy Mountain or whatever, I'm not. You know, a lot of my stories are based on real life experiences. You know, many of them are, or at least things I feel inside.
Sure.
You know, actually, that song, that's more like Joe. That's Joe's title. The proof is in the whiskey. I'm more of a rum drinker.
I see.
Although I did have a few drinks of whiskey yesterday in preparation for your show. I always like to
Glad to hear
do.
that.
I always like to do
I just
radio
wanna know that
interviews.
you're getting into character.
I like to be a little hungover when I'm doing a radio interview. Don't ask me why.
Another review said hard-edged and whiskey infused.
There you go. There's that whiskey again.
That's how one radio DJ described Pete Berwick's music. And music critic Reverend Keith Gordon, former contributor to Cream magazine, wrote, "Berwick pens his own reality, and much like Hank, Waylon, Townes Van Zandt, and Steve Earle, his songs are inhabited by heartbreak, humor, insight, and emotion." Would that suggest that your life has been filled with heartbreak and misery?
Man, if my life was a prize fight, they would have stopped in the first round. Oh, I tell you, my wife lasted everything I do. That's why we only have one kid. My father used to say things, Alan. He'd say things like, "Son, you got to start at the bottom." He was teaching me how to swim. How dirty can I get on your show? Not too dirty.
No, don't get dirty.
Can we talk about Dolly Parton?
We can talk about Dolly Parton, but no four-letter words.
No, but I had a nightmare last night.
About
I don't
Dolly?
sleep well. Yeah, I don't sleep well. I have these nightmares. The other night I dreamed I was a muffler. I woke up exhausted. But last night I had a nightmare. I dreamed I was Dolly Parton's baby. Now ask me, why is that a nightmare?
Why is that a nightmare?
I was a bottle baby. Okay. You mentioned humor. Can we do a funny song on the album?
Sure.
Or do you have more biographical information that you pillaged off of the internet? That you
No,
want?
I don't have much more biographical.
Enough about me. How about my songs? No, you can talk about me. But yeah, this one, I like to write at least one comedic song per album. And this is based on a true story. I wrote it at Motel 666. But actually, this was a motel down in Florida. It was a 2-cockroach motel. I'll tell you how bad the place was. They stole my towels. Yeah, this drunk chick was screaming and swearing all night, pounding on my door. Finally, I had to get some sleep, so I let her out. Then I wrote this song. It's called Keep Your Socks On and Don't Look Down. I hope you enjoy it. I'm whistling because I forgot my C harmonic. That's a whistle right there. Well, the sign said cheap rates. I thought ain't that great. TV in every room too. What the sign didn't say was the nightmare waiting behind the door in room 202. Keep the lights turned low. Look out below. It's the biggest dump in town. Just stay on the bed and look straight ahead. Keep your socks on and don't look down. Toilet don't flush, hell what's the rush, and the tub don't drain or dry. Put the key in the slot, glad for what you got. For only 29 bucks, you get a Bible in the drawer, several coat hangers, maybe more plastic bathroom cup. In your head there's a little voice going round and round. Keep your socks on and don't look down. Everybody out there, radio land, you know the word. Keep your socks on and don't look down. Lord knows what's on that ground. A word to the wise, keep your eyes on the prize. You get a much better feeling staring at the ceiling. There's a cockroach in the sink. Something died in this room, I think. 20 years ago that carpet wasn't brown. Keep your socks on and don't look down. Oh! I messed up. I was supposed to say 30 years ago that carpet wasn't brown. I could have said 40 years ago. Well, checkout time was 10 a.m., but that room checked out long ago. I told the maid, don't bother to clean, cause no one would ever know. So I walked out that time, somehow still alive, and I'll tell you my secret now. Just get drunk, stay drunk, turn the TV loud, keep your socks on and don't look down. Come on, Alan, sing along. Well, keep your socks on and don't look down. Alan Weissman, Lord knows what's on that ground. A word to the wise, keep your eyes on the prize. You get a much better feeling staring at the ceiling. There's a cockroach in the sink. Something died in this room, I think. 30 years ago that carpet wasn't brown. Keep your socks on and don't look down. 30 years of old, don't get it on your soles. Keep your socks on and don't look down. Look out!
Woo!
Thank you.
There's so much truth in that song.
Oh, and I called the guy at the desk. I said, hey man, there's a dead rat and a cockroach by my bed.
Oh my
You know what he said? He said, tell them to come down to the office. I don't think they're registered. Oh, I tell you. Go in the punk direction, so I disbanded that thing. In 1980, no, it would have been more like 82. Because 80, I got married. My first wife, we moved to Dallas, and then that didn't work out. And so I came back to Illinois after my stint in Dallas down there. I did some things musically down there. I performed at various bars.
You consider your marriage a stint?
Uh-oh. Did I just call my
After
marriage
his
a
marriage,
stent?
he needs a stent.
You know, I was going to say, I could say something. We got to keep it clean.
You did chores while you did your chores?
Yes, of course, while I did my tour.
Just checking.
All right, cool. Oh, what? Can you knock out another tune for us?
And you know, I've done, yeah, so anyway, this, yeah, you know, talking about it all is just insane, you know. I mean, it's like, I'll tell you what, I'll tell your listeners, if they really want to get an idea of my life, I wrote a fictional biography. So it's part fiction, part biography, part biography. It's called The Bar Singer. Bar Singer, that would work too. I've written 4 novels, but that was my first one, called The Bar Singer. And that's available on my website at peteberwick.net. Read that and save yourself the earache of me talking about it. So anyway,
How do you spell Berwick?
this one's called See You in Hell. Bridges burn above water neath the bridge. Let bygones be all things must pass like Jesus, just forgive. We're all wretched sinners, Lord knows we owe a debt. Can't outrun the
devil. God never forgets that they live. Let dead dogs play. I seen ghosts rise in the sky. Damnation or salvation's always near. See you in hell, I'll bring fear. What's done is done, I've got the gun. Redemption should be mine. You can turn the other cheek, but I just shoot you twice. That was then and this is now. I know we die as friends, but we can spend eternity for us to make amends. Live and live, let dead dogs lie. I see ghost riders in the sky. Damnation or salvation's always there. See you in hell, I'll bring the beer. I'm already there. Ha! How? Tell me it's a lonely place where fires always burn. No rebel yell, it's hot as hell, no refunds or return. Like an empty bottle, all bad things must end. Can't kill a man, born to hang, and good guys always win. Live, let live. Let their dogs lie. I see ghost riders in the sky. Damnation or salvation's always there. See you in hell, I'll bring the beer. See you in hell, I'll bring the beer. Already live. Ow! Hey, see you there.
Yeah.
What kind of beer would you like me to bring? PBR. I gotta tell you, Al, I gotta throw this in.
Okay, go ahead.
I was on the way to visit my parents after a show, a nursing home show, great audience. They're not going anywhere.
No.
No cell phones, no TVs all over the place. Wonderful people. They
Just
are
take their walkers away. Then you've got a captive audience.
Dolores, what's with that goof?
That's Marge
Marge.
Simpson. Hmm? Huh?
Marge?
Marge Simpson.
Oh, you're doing, is that what you're doing? I'm wondering. I thought you, okay. Marge, there we go. Yeah, take their walkers away and what? Come on, be nice.
Then you have a captive audience.
You know, we're right behind them. I'm not much younger than these people entertainers, to be honest with you. Anyway, so I'm on my way from that. I'm on my way to visit my parents. All I really want is a couple beers. I want to bring a six-pack over to my parents' house. You know, just want to come with a couple beers. I mean, I think they already know I'm a borderline alcoholic, but maybe a couple beers would convince them otherwise. But anyway, so there's no liquor stores on the way. All there is a Whole Foods, you know, that upscale, you know.
Yeah, sure.
You know, it's not at all.
They're going to start carrying liquor there.
Well, they have it. And I figured they would. And so, perfect. All I want is a couple cans of beer. So this big 24-ounce can of PBR for like $1.99. I'm surprised it's so cheap at Whole Foods. I thought they would want $5 for that thing. I don't shop there, you know.
Yeah.
They don't like people like me going to Whole Foods. But it was hysterical. So I walk up to the cashier, uppity lady. How are you? I go, and I put the can of beer down there. I go, dinner. That's my idea of a healthy dinner. Oh my gosh. Her look bordered between terror and disdain. And just like, you know, you couldn't get a chuckle out of her or anything. And as I walked away, I thought, not only am I probably the first individual on planet Earth to ever leave Whole Foods with merely one can of beer, but I'm also probably everything that cashier has ever hated. And just, you know.
It's probably true.
That's her problem.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
I just wasted too much time with that story. What are we going to do now?
That's okay. Now, I have a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
You recorded an album in 1992,
Yes.
but it wasn't released until 2004,
Yeah.
I think you said?
2007.
2007. So, what accounts for the intervening 15-year
That's a really good story. Okay, so on my record label, Bitter Creek Records, good guy. It's like I went to Nashville and I did what they tell you you're not supposed to do. I knocked on doors. You're not supposed to do that, right? You're supposed to get a lawyer or a manager to do that for you. Knocked on this guy's door. It was one of the first doors I knocked on. Well, I met with some other publishers. I got some songs published and whatnot. But so I walk in. I play him like a couple songs. He's like, I don't have to hear anymore. Basically, I'm signing you. So, nice guy, old Vietnam vet, biker dude. We got along real good. So we basically sat around for 5 years and drank beer and talked about how rich and famous we were going to be. But anyway, we recorded Ain't No Train Out of Nashville with some good local studio cats, and man, it's really one of my most successful albums. But we had a falling out. He left town with the Masters. And all I was stuck with was a cassette tape of the session in a shoebox. And I let it sit in the shoebox. Moved out of Nashville, moved 40 miles out of Nashville. My wife and I bought 7 acres of land in Charlotte County, which, out of Nashville. I just kind of I'm sick of the music business already. I've been running at it for 15, 20 years. And I said, that's it. I'm just going to work in a factory and shoot my guns and run around naked on my 2nd acres and burn things, And anyway, so I came back to Illinois eventually. And then, so I put out Only Bleeding in 2002. And for the next 5 years, I stayed drunk on my boat. And then I worked too, but I stayed drunk on my boat whenever I could. So 5 years of that. I finally sold the boat because I had to get some work. I thought I got to get back to the music business, and so I thought, okay, I'm gonna release another album. But then I thought, you know what? I got this album in Nashville. I hadn't listened to it because my bitterness just wouldn't allow me to. Bitter Creek Records was the name of the label, and I dragged this thing out of the shoebox. I put it on. I thought, man, this is good. This really has held up, and technology had caught up to where, I could convert it to CD. I couldn't have done that back in the time. I got converted to CD. I had it remastered. I mastered the crap out of it, and man, I went to number 5 on Outlaw Radio, on XM Radio, and at the time it was called Cross Country. Now it's Outlaw Radio. I thought I was going to have a number 1 record on satellite radio, and it's done real well for me. And I know one of the songs you posted today online promoting this current episode that we are experiencing right now in the Twilight Zone was Only Bleeding, which was a very successful song, which actually, that was on my Only Bleeding album, but I wanted to get more mileage out of that song because it was doing so well for me.
Yeah.
I was actually paying some bills on that song, so I also put it on my Ain't No Train Out of Nashville album. Kept it going, and it fit right in with that album.
Okay.
I think that tells a story.
Gotcha.
Good things come to those who wait,
Okay. Can you do another tune for us, please?
I will. You know what? Why don't I do Only Bleeding, since we're talking about that album?
Okay, cool.
I'll do Only Bleeding from Ain't No Train Out of Nashville. So if you see me on the corner, just hanging around with no place to go, the head hanging low, don't Thank you very much, Lake County, Illinois. And beyond, I understand we also are filtering into parts of Wisconsin.
McHenry?
McHenry.
Yeah, we're linking over all the borders.
My dogs might be listening now. I think I left the radio on.
Soon West
Cool song.
Chicago.
That was
Thank you
very
very much. Yeah, Al, there's a story to that song. I wrote that thing like in the 80s, I couldn't get it right. I actually recorded it for the Ain't No Train Out of Nashville album. But it was an extra verse that went on too long. The lyrics, they just weren't right. I had not nailed the song and I knew it. So the version, so I finally tweaked it, 25 years or so later, I got the words just right, and then I recorded it for the Only Bleeding album. And so that's the version we put on the Ain't No Train Out. So the Only Bleeding from the original, from the Ain't No Train Out of Nashville sessions that we did in '92, that got scrapped. And so it was 2002's version that ended up on the album.
Oh, I see.
But it's better. I finally nailed the song.
cool song. It's
Yeah,
very villainous, that song.
Thank you, and it's been a good song for me. It's been one of my most successful songs. And
I got news for you. When I posted the advertisement for today's show, we can see how many views.
Mm-hmm.
You got tons of views. I mean, you got hundreds of views.
Oh, good.
Looking at that, and some ads, for some shows don't get anywhere near.
Too bad they don't transcend to CD sales.
Well, something.
Maybe they
something
will.
There. There's definitely something there.
Like when I left the house, I checked in with my Facebook one last time, my email and all that stuff, because I know I'm not going to be home for a while, and it's like, first thing I see is 28 people poked you. I'm thinking, screw that. How about 28 people just bought my new album? And what does that mean, poked?
I know.
What does that mean?
I could never
What is this?
figure it out.
What is this? Grade school? We're passing notes again?
I could never figure out.
God, give me a
How many
break.
times have we talked about poking?
A lot.
And I'm looking at my Facebook many times and I see poking. What the hell is poking?
I don't know, man. But it didn't say 28 people bought your album. It says 28 people poked me. Oh wow, that made my
And
day.
then how about when somebody pokes you like 5 times in a row?
Yeah, I
What
don't
the
get
hell?
it. I don't
If you want
get
to
it.
say something to me, say it already.
I don't like to be poked. I don't poke. I wouldn't say I like it when my wife pokes me. But anyway, we won't go there.
No. So let's see here. Now you said that you prefer to be called a pirate, not an outlaw.
I think of
Is there a
myself.
dis-
Yeah,
Is that a
okay.
difference
Look,
without a distinction?
look, I'm not gonna. The outlaw thing's fine, and
Cowpunk.
it started with
Cowpunk
Willie and
is the
Waylon and all that,
operative phrase.
right? And as a matter of fact, I'm kind of in the running to be. I'm hoping to be a nominee for a music award show coming up, like
I voted for you on that.
Outlaw of the Year or whatever. And that's fine, because I don't want to come off like a hypocrite, because this thing's recorded for infamy.
Right.
And I don't want to come off it. But no, I have mixed feelings about it. It's fine. I like that. I'd rather be called an outlaw than Barry Manilow, of course. But I think, once again, see, to me, and I think one of the reasons why people were so eager to get me nominated for this one specific music award show
How does
coming
it
up.
look for that thing, by the way?
What's that?
How does it look for that?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. They haven't decided yet. But to me, outlaw. See, I think a lot of people they hear it and right away they think Willie Waylon, David Allen Coe, Johnny Cash, right?
Right.
And so and these artists they specifically sound a certain way, and although they ran the gamut. If you look at Johnny Cash, he ran the gamut. He did folk, he did stuff with Dylan. And to me, outlaw, I have some friends who are, they're considered outlaws, but man, some of their country music has a jazz flavor to it. I think outlaw means doing it your way, doing it your style.
Well, it's not doing it poppy.
Yeah, no specific.
Like Nashville.
Don't even get me going on the new country today. But I don't know. Once again, I think to me, outlaw is more of like the way you live your life, more than a music genre. Because like as a genre, I think you can get pigeonholed. I mean, Dylan was an outlaw, was he not? The Stones were outlaws, but you don't say, oh, the Stones do outlaw music. But man, they were outlaws. They were punks.
They were bad boys.
So I don't know. I think of myself as a pirate because pirates, same thing.
But outlaw is country, and they only had 1 or 2 country songs. The
Who?
Stones.
Well, true. Yeah, they were basically, English hillbillies. Like when they did country, they just became English hillbillies. And it's something like these 4 punks from England have to come to America to show Americans how to do American music right.
Right.
Because they're over there cutting their teeth on blues.
Right.
The black blues man. These guys wanted to be black. They were pissed off that they weren't. And they come here. It's like, this is how you do it. It was brilliant. Like when they came to America, what do we have? Bobby Vinton, and Donnie and Marie. That was rock and roll.
Right.
It really took these 4 English ragamuffins to come here and show, okay, this is how.
Well, maybe, that's often the case. You need an outside
Well,
perspective.
they took American music. They took this, the old black blues guys. They went to their graves dead. They weren't getting paid. They were getting ripped off. And then of course, you know, the country, the old country stars, you know, gosh, I have, you know, they got ripped. They weren't making any money. You know, BMI, ASCAP, all that stuff came later. You know, you had people like Willie Nelson selling a song for a bottle of whiskey, or, you know, $50. It was crazy he sold, you know. But, you know, the music was there, and then the Stones came, and other than the English invasion, and they popularized and they commercialized, and it all became big and went through the roof. And, of course, a lot of them ripped off every blues riff they could. Sure. I mean, and you know, Keith Richards would be the first to tell you, he ripped off every riff that Chuck Berry ever wrote.
Sure.
And that's cool. I mean, that's music. It's just a circle of life, whatnot. What the hell was it? Was this a question I was answering?
I don't know. I like
know.
the conversation.
Yeah,
well,
me
we
too.
have about enough time for one more.
One more. See what happens when all you do is talk, Alan?
Yeah,
You bring me on your show and all you do is ramble. That's a lot of fun. These things are always too short.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. We'll have you back another time.
Hey, I hope so.
Because I don't think we got to the bottom of this discussion.
What was the bottom? Well, no, seriously, was there a bottom you were trying to get to? The bottom of the barrel? No, what?
The real Pete Berwick, you know what I mean? I
know.
think we got a touch of him, maybe a flavor of him.
I don't know if there is a real Pete. The Pete Berwick's still writing his life story. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the real Pete Berwick. That's the thing. Every now and then someone tries to think they have me figured out. I don't have me figured out.
Okay.
You know, I'm still doing it. I'm still growing. There's a lot of things I want to do. You know, I love it. I love everything. I love to take risks. I'm going to the gym after this to do some sparring. You know, I'm also amateur fighting. We didn't fight.
Pete was shadowboxing. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Shadowboxing. I love boxing. It's a lot to me, and kind of messes up my hands. Though it's not the best thing for guitar work. But we have time for one more.
One more.
All right. Well, let's go back to the new album, and why don't we do this one? This is called Dedicated to a Waitress. I'll leave it at that. Are you sure I'm what you want? 2, 3, 4. I'm not trying to save the world. I tell you, girl, I can't even save myself. Take that chance. Don't you think you're better off with what you don't got? I'm not who you think I am, or what you think I'm not. Oh honey, are you sure I'm what you want? 2, 3, 4. Present to you, my dear man.
Why are you not a millionaire?
Well, you know, I'm only.
You know, that's sometimes the
I'm only
breaks.
999,000 and something cents short of that.
Your music is great, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm working on it. You know, I've had some success. I've placed over a dozen songs in movies and television.
Really? How does that come about? And if you can briefly tell us, do they come to you and say, "We like your song"? Do you go to them and say,
has.
"Song, is this going to work for you"? I mean,
Yeah, sometimes, like in Nashville, I was actually performing at a club, and River Phoenix was in town shooting a thing called Love. That was my first cut in '92. And Dermot Mulroney, his co-star, was in the club. And so he heard me doing Ain't No Train Out of Nashville. And it was just another gig to me. Next thing I know, I'm in a bar with Dermot Mulroney. He's buying me beers, picking my brain, because he's playing the song. He's playing the part of the struggling songwriter who doesn't get the girl. And anyway, so he said, this song is great. I think if I bring it to Peter Bogdanovich, we can get it in the movie. Long story short, he did. So that was just being in the right place at the right time. No postage, no phone calls. But yeah, I've got some publishers I'm working with, and I've got.
do you get a lot of money for that when a song gets?
I will tell you this. I was doing a nice, comfortable white trash trailer thing in a trailer park in Nashville, and working in the car wash, and minimum wage, and been busting my tail all my life on that kind of job. My very first job was a paper route at like 8 years old. But anyway, so yeah, I got a check. The lawyer, Paramount Pictures lawyer, calls me. I'm sitting there in my trailer, babysitting for this neighbor kid, She's running around screaming, terrorizing the place, and putting holes in the wood paneling, that old wood paneling in those trailers. Paramount's lawyer calls me, and he's very matter of fact. Oh yeah, here's a song, so it's good. You're good with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm good with it, because I knew this call was coming. My record label told me, expect it's going to be the movie, because they contacted them, but we didn't know how much. And even to this day, they can give you whatever they want. Yeah. TV, movie, they might just give you a couple $100 because it's a snippet of a song and a scene. It could be anywhere from, So anyway, he said, okay, man, we're going to give you $5,000, and then, he's going, okay. And I almost felt like $5,000. You may as well said $50,000 at the time.
Good for you, yeah.
I'd never seen a check for $5,000. That was a good payoff.
That was cool.
And so anyway, I work it. It seldom comes to you. I work it. I work hard. I treat it like a job. I've got an office in my house. I got a desk, a telephone, desk calendar, pencils, number 2 pencils.
Well, we got
to go.
Thank you so very, very
Alan,
much.
I would like to thank you. I would like to present you with a copy of
I want you to sign that puppy.
my new album,
And
Legend.
you're giving us a couple of copies to give away.
Yes, sir. Are we going to do that? We're going to do a CD giveaway?
We're going to do a CD giveaway.
Okay, there you go. I'm leaving you a couple to give away to your wonderful listeners.
And if anybody is interested in a Pete Berwick CD, we have 2 to give away. Give us a call at 847-894-3108, and we'll set it up for you. So, is your any other musical members of your family?
Not quite as much. I mean, in the past, yes, my grandmother
Really?
played and so forth, things like that.
Are you familiar with the Roys, a bluegrass band, by any chance?
I'm not.
Okay, because when we had them on the show, I asked them, because they're always in the top 10 bluegrass, and I said, how does it feel to be the second and third top bluegrass players in your family? And they said, who are you talking about, our cousin? I said, no, your grandma.
Yeah, right.
Because she was actually a really hot bluegrass in Canada.
Well, actually, as far as going back to Danville, I mean, as far as Danville goes, there are a lot of hot people from there. I mean, Donald O'Connor's from there.
Really?
Gene Hackman is from there.
Cool.
Dick Van Dyke is from Danville.
I think I read about this.
Right.
At
There's a number of characters from, surprisingly.
What's Eric's last name? What's your last name, Eric?
Charles.
Eric Charles is from there, too.
That's right.
See? Huh?
And how old were you when you were exposed to your first instrument?
The Idaho grasshopper.
I was, perhaps 8 or 10, something like that.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Did you take lessons? Or?
Drums is the first thing I started with.
Really?
Yeah.
How long were you with the drums?
Not too long.
We have
The
a,
moment I had to start practicing, I think I said, let me try something else.
we have a very strong policy here that we do not, we absolutely prohibit discrimination against drum players and bass players.
Actually, everybody in this band plays drums except for me.
You're all protected here today.
Yeah, we all have a microphone. Do you have a microphone too, David?
He can use this.
Oh, here, sure.
There you go. So, I mean, as far as bass players and drummers go, we do blues and rhythm and blues, so those 2 positions are rather central to the stuff that we do.
Cool.
And
And I understand that your brother is a novelist.
Yeah, he is.
Joshua Ferris?
Joshua Ferris is a novelist, He's doing really well. And
Yeah.
his wife as well, actually, is a writer, and she's doing really well.
Yeah, I was reading up on him the other day. He seems to be really accomplished.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
Very cool.
Great dude. Yeah, I have a very artistic family. My son is a director in L.A.
What does he direct?
I mean, it's some of us are successful and some of us are in the middle and some of us are struggling and beginning and so forth. Well, he directs whatever he can get paid for. That's kind of how it is out there.
Like
It's a little
TV
tough. When you get started, it's mostly web-based kinds of stuff.
Okay.
That's kind of where things are at.
All right, you got to start
When you
somewhere.
start out.
Sure, absolutely.
And of course, you all want to do a feature film.
Okay. Yeah, but the web is where it's at right now. I mean, a lot of people are trying to do
It's
web stuff.
fast, and it is where it's at, especially for certain demographics.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is Roberto Aguilar. Getting back to
How are you,
Aguilar.
Roberto?
Getting back to the bass and drums. Roberto is the drummer, or the bassist for the group.
Drummer and bass player.
Yeah.
Roberto
Those two positions are very
Aguilera.
important. Give me a chance to get a sound. Did you get a sound at all? You got a sound you can work with? We won't blow everybody away. That sounds good. Let's see if I can get a sound. Should speak with Roberto for a moment, give him a chance to.
Where are you from, Roberto?
Southeast side of Chicago.
You got to talk right into the mic, please.
Southeast side of Chicago, actually.
Where at?
105th and Bensley,
Oh, really? And
right on the southeast corner of Trumbull Park.
okay, all right. And how old were you when you first got exposed
Oh, I
to your
was
first?
7.
And was
I
it a
used to
bass?
sit and watch my older cousin play drums. I used to sit behind the drums and watch him. No, I started out as a drummer also. But found out back in those days, everybody else wanted to be a guitar player and a drummer. We couldn't find bass players.
Really?
So I kind of picked it up as a necessity and fell in love with it and been playing ever since.
I love the bass. There's so many wonderful bass players out there.
Yeah.
I've been watching this little gal from Australia,
Oh, yeah.
Tal.
Yes.
Tall,
she's
whatever.
amazing. Yeah, she's working with
Everybody.
actually, she is working with everybody. Yeah.
And she's just.
Yeah. See, now, I never wanted to be one of those solo artists like that. I'm more a foundation guy, groove, rhythm.
Uh-huh.
Not a lot of fancy licks.
Okay, all right. Everybody. There's room for everybody. in
That's
this
right.
business.
That's right.
And I understand that we have an accomplished drummer in the room with us today.
That's right.
We got 3 of them. No, 2 of them.
But these two guys started as drummers. You're the drummer. I bet you didn't start as a drummer, did you?
I didn't have a choice. Couldn't read notes, no.
So where are you from, sir? Is
I'm
that
from
your name,
Chicago,
please?
north side of Chicago, Wrigley Field
David Thornton.
area, born and raised there. I've left, but I've always come back, and why? I'm not quite sure, but I'm here.
Okay.
It's good.
Do you still live in Chicago now?
Mm-hmm.
Still live in the Wrigley Field area?
No, I'm northwest side now. I'm right out by the airport, Norwood Park.
Okay, all right. And what was your first instrument?
I'm sorry?
What was your first instrument?
Drums.
Drums, always drums.
Pots and pans and anything I can get my hands on to beat, yeah. And drove my parents crazy, from 5 years old till I was 11 and got my first set of drums, which they truly regretted. But I'm here, I haven't done anything since, so this is it.
This is it.
A chain of regret is what.
All right, can we hear a tune from you, gentlemen?
Sure. Before we do that, let me shout out to Marion Meinig and our friend Patricia as well over in Dusseldorf. They are our management team, as it were, over in Europe.
Okay,
So we
cool.
want to just say hi, as well as Mark Weiser, Vinny Rebecca.
If they knew you're on right now, they could actually be listening to this show because we have
They could.
listeners in Germany,
That's why
Israel,
I'm shouting
England.
out, because I know they're going to probably be listening.
Plus-
So they're trying to do festivals for us in Europe.
Okay.
And then we're also trying to work in Miami a bit. So.
Cool.
All right, so let's do Come On Out.
Is this your own original tune?
Yeah. These will all be.
With whom, may I ask?
Also, a fellow named Mudbone Turner,
Okay,
Chicago native, working out of Atlanta.
excellent.
Yeah, he's
I
got a
love it.
blues band down there. He's doing quite well.
Great.
So
great.
shout out to Mudbone, Aaron Turner.
And this is Al Weissman. In a nutshell, that was the Eric Charles Band doing Come On Out. And I loved it. That was very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Could you lay another one on us?
Sure.
Please.
Yeah.
We have, you know, kind of like limited time here now, so I'd like to give you the opportunity to play as much music as you can. We've got a great sound. Gorgeous. Woo! What was the name of that tune, man?
Thank you. Natural Man.
You know, when we had J.B. Ritchie on the show, we discussed the concept of hooks in music and how rock and roll bands, when you go to see a rock and roll band that maybe you haven't seen before, they try to play a couple of tunes that they think their audience is going to be familiar with so they can get hooks out there, and then they can play their own stuff and feel like maybe they'll stick around and listen to it, you know?
Yeah.
But blues isn't like that, I don't think. I mean,
I
what
think
do you
you're
think?
right. I think you're right. I think you're right. It kind of reaches out directly.
Every blues tune has its own hooks.
The memory thing is important. I think what you're talking about is kind of a memory thing.
Yeah,
You know, you
yeah.
associate a song with a certain memory or whatever like that. And when you go to see a group, a lot of times you kind of want to relive that a little bit. But yeah, blues is a little bit different thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of going for it, I would say.
It kind of reaches inside you and doesn't let go. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I think rock stuff is.
Well, you got to talk into the mic.
Rock music, I mean, it's great. But I think that you do some other work. I think the blues and R&B and stuff is such a soulful thing that you have to have some natural, heartfelt feelings about it to bring it through and let it speak for you as you speak behind it on how you feel.
Right.
You know,
It's more multidimensional. I think it's more of a soul. It reaches into your soul more, especially if it's well executed.
yeah.
And your stuff is really well executed. I'll tell you that. I love it.
We're having a good time. We're trying to put out a CD. We've been together about a year as this unit here.
Okay.
We've got about half the CD recorded, and now is all the original stuff. So we've got one really nice song by another fellow named Joe Zachlin that we're going to do. It's, like I said, it's so new. I'm learning words as we go. So we've got our original stuff. Mudbone Turner, Joe Zachlin as well is contributing. And that's kind of the next step for us, is to get that CD together.
Cool. Cool. Well, can you lay another tune on us?
Yeah, we can.
Social club, and basically they have recording studios, they have rehearsal rooms, they have jam nights, they have teaching there, and then they have a main showroom. The place is way too nice for a bunch of scallywags like us. It's a beautiful place, a great sounding room. It's kind of like off the beaten track in Highland Park, but it's a wonderful place. And anybody that plays there is going to sound a lot better than they really should.
Well, it sounds like a place to play. That's cool. That's November 7th. So you got 2 gigs coming up in the very near future here.
Yeah, Highland Park coming up.
Yeah. Any other gigs coming up after that?
Probably some things coming up in Miami, but I don't have dates
We
set.
have a handful of dates coming up.
Yeah, things
House
coming
of Blues, Fitzgerald's, place called Max on Slade and Palatine that we play at a lot.
Okay.
One of our favorite, places to play.
If you give me those dates, even after the show, I can announce them.
Oh, so I appreciate that. Great.
Absolutely.
Great. Good deal.
And also, if you do make a CD, we only play music from people who've already been on our show. I mean, if a song comes up in the course of conversation that's not among that type, we might have to play it so we can talk about it. But otherwise, the only music we play is people who've been on our show already. So if you get us a CD, you'll
Okay, good deal.
We'll be
It's a
doing
sweet
that.
thing.
Great deal. Yeah. We get a different sound for this. So this is going to be Joe's song. Joe is, by the way, heck of a guitar player and harp player. He's got to be, I don't know, probably, we're all in 50s and 60s kind of age group. Sensational player. There's actually a lot of great players in Central Illinois. People do not realize, I think, actually. I had a mentor, Robert Lee Herbert from Bloomington.
Okay.
Played with Luther Allison and so forth. So a lot of good players out there. So anyway, shout out to Joe. This is his song called Warning Signs. 2, 1, 2.
Tell
out of the box.
Cool. Very cool. What's Joe's last name on that?
Zachlin, Z-A-K-L-A-N.
And Natural Man is.
That's just mine.
That's
my
Joe.
song, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So I see that you lived in Europe for about 5 years. or
Yeah,
so?
yeah.
And out of Brussels, you said.
Right.
So what were some of the musicians you played with over there? Who were they?
Well, you know, not too surprisingly, I played with Americans over there.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, I don't mean that as a slight. I didn't mean that as a slight, actually. But there's so many good American musicians. I mean, let's call it like it is.
Sure.
And I played with a tall brother over there named, oh gosh, what was his name? Carson Barnes, out of
Okay.
Akron, Ohio.
All right.
Had his name in my mind until I had to call it.
Naturally.
Naturally. But he was a Charlie Parker man. Okay, true and blue jazzer.
Okay.
And we used to play the little cafes in Brussels.
All right.
Very similar to a French setting. Actually, that was a French area.
Sure.
Brussels is really French, I would say.
All right.
And used to do quite well, going right through the fake book, playing Charlie Parker, guitar and alto sax.
Were the audiences pretty receptive to?
They were extraordinary. They loved it. You know, just two Americans going through the fake book. And we played strictly for tips, which is something you don't do here,
No.
unfortunately. But we were there every Saturday. We made a regular thing of it, and we did quite well.
Very good.
Yeah, and Carson was a heck of a player. Shout out to Carson over in Akron,
And
Ohio.
you did that for 5 years.
We did it for several years. Yeah, I mean, I played with various groups over there, but yeah, that was probably the most noteworthy that I enjoyed.
How'd you wind up there? I mean, what caused you to go there?
You know, coming from Danville, you know,
Okay,
you
see
realize
the
it's a big
world.
world.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's a natural kind of a response. But I'm kind of a wanderlust kind of a guy. I speak French. You know, I'm a Sagittarian.
Okay.
So I don't know what that says about me, but I like to travel, and I've been a lot of places, and no regrets about it. Yeah,
Very cool.
love the world. Beautiful place.
That was after you got out of college, huh?
Well, really, my whole life. My whole life. I was in Europe this summer. I was in Athens this summer. Lovely people. First time in Greece.
Is the effect of their financial situation something that's very noticeable?
Yeah, it is, and just in the sense that the people that I knew and partied with, had fun with, rather hopeless. You know,
Really?
rather tough. You know, no bright prospects on the horizon.
Oh,
kind of
that's
thing.
such a sad
And extraordinary tightness. You know, week after week. We all have tight weeks and whatever, but week after week it gets old. So, you know, this gentleman was paying, I think he was making €400 a month, and he was paying $260 for his rent.
Oh my goodness.
The rest of the
Yeah.
month was 140 €40, so not easy. Good people though, super people.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, could you lay another tune on us? Because I'd like to get your full complement of music in here today.
All right.
We're gonna go till about 10 till. We're not gonna stop at a quarter till, so go a little bit longer.
Let's just do a blues song here for you.
Okay.
Well, let's pick it up a little bit. Starts from the 5. B flat. Starts from the 5. 2, 1, 2, 8. Come on by the house, it'll last until the dawn. But guess what, baby? Ooh, you would have another plan. You just know that you lost out. Oh, you bought it with another man. It wasn't just a mistake. That was just a fluke.
in a Nutshell. And Eric Charles Band. And the name of that tune was Mean Street?
Main Street. And actually, there is an Eric Charles band. We're the Eric Charles group.
Eric Charles.
Strangely enough.
Okay.
There is a band as well.
I think I noticed that when I was online. Kind of threw me for a loop for a minute.
Throws me for a loop.
So, I mean, besides Miami and Chicago area, do you take your band on your group on the road to other locales within the
certainly.
United States?
Yeah, certainly.
Have you ever got to the West Coast or places like that? Or
I have not really been out the West Coast.
I have.
Very much. Some of the
Yeah.
guys, yeah.
you guys have been together for a
I
year.
worked about 7 provinces of Canada, about 42 of the U.S. states,
Really?
parts of Mexico, and some of the Caribbean.
Really? So mostly,
Unlike him, he went to Europe. I traveled all over here.
is that like the resort scene down in Mexico?
Yeah, I did some of that. Yeah, I also did USO tours in the past, and I did hotel chains, and
This is Roberto Aguilera
right.
speaking.
Yeah.
And you speak Spanish, I
A
assume?
little bit Mexican Italian,
Italian,
so I
okay.
speak a little Italian too.
All right.
But I can say hello maybe in 26 languages,
That's
including
an
some
important
Native
talent.
American Indian.
So how long were you traveling around for?
Oh God, I didn't settle down until about 30 years ago. I met a woman. I finally unpacked my bag, and now we split up about 6 years ago, and I'm back to traveling again.
Old habits die hard, huh?
Yeah, they do die hard. Yes.
And it looks like you burst onto the scene with your bow tie bass.
Yeah, because I play so high, they call me Bowtie Bass.
Oh, okay.
I wrote that bio. Forgive me. That's.
No, but it's true. Everybody refers to me as the Bowtie Bass guy.
I'm not a writer. My brother is a writer. I'm not.
That's not too bad.
That's awesome.
You updated your influences over time by playing disco?
Yeah, that was funny. When I was playing disco, all of my friends that were rock musicians,
Yeah.
whenever I came into town, you're a sellout. And I'd look at them and go, well, wait a minute, let's get this straight. You're practicing every night in the garage or in the basement, and you're playing one gig every 2-3 months. You're playing one night out of 2-3 months. I says, I'm playing 5 nights to 6 nights a week, rehearsing 4 days a week with the band, and rehearsing on my own. So who's the sellout here?
Isn't that something?
I'm making money at my craft, and I enjoy doing it, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The brother's been doing it a while.
Yeah.
We all have been doing it.
Yeah,
David as
we've
well.
all been it.
And this gentleman I'm working with on the 6th, Ron Overcast, he's been in Chicago area for a long time
Long
as well.
time, yeah.
Okay.
And he'll be a buddy guys on the 6th.
And not to
be
forget
missed.
Danny Dreyer,
Danny Dreyer will be there
and
with
the
us on the
keyboard
7th.
player.
New York studio guy will be with us on the
Yeah.
7th.
Yeah.
Super musician, super human being.
Oh, wow. That sounds excellent.
And keyboard.
Stanley Banks, he'll be out there from the Odyssey on the south side. He's at the Odyssey at Torrance and 99th every Friday and Sunday. That's Stanley Banks.
Okay.
Super player, also known as superhuman being. My bands are always superhuman beings, Al.
Your
That's
bands
always
have a
number one,
super
brother.
sound, I'll tell you
Thanks,
that.
man.
Excellent.
Thanks, man.
And anything? When do you expect to have your CD come
By
out?
the end of the year, we're open, yeah.
Please let us know.
All right, we'll do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so very much for coming
Our
around
pleasure.
today.
Thank
I
you.
definitely
Thanks.
appreciate it,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
You guys are. We have Roberto Aguilera on the bass, David Thornton on the drums,
Okay.
and of course Eric Charles on the guitar.
Okay, very good.
Thanks again.
Thank you very, very much.
That made them feel great. And most of the time when you look at the people that bully, they're not getting that. So they go after, and it's like they search out their prey. And they look for the people that are vulnerable or already starting to show signs of, if you would say, quote unquote, weakness. And they go
You
after
probably
those
remind them
people.
of themselves, right?
Absolutely. And so they say, well, that's a person I can get self-worth from. So they go after that person, after what we call the victim, to say, you know what, I'm going to take it. And all the victim is doing is rewarding the bully by giving him a part of them to the bully.
Isn't that something? It sounds like it's pretty pervasive, though. I mean, bullying is everywhere, isn't it?
It really is. So Al, you know, I do go into schools, but it's not just about going into schools. Bullying is everywhere. So I've started the Bully Proof Life movement, which really focuses on bullying all over the place. Schools, cyberbullying, in your home. You know, we have older siblings that bully us. You know, sometimes parents are bullied by their kids. Sometimes parents bully their kids. But also when, you know, you look at relationships between a man and a woman, there's so much talk about abusive relationships and why the woman stays in it. Well, they're being bullied. And if you have no self-worth and this person is taking it away from you, it's interesting how we stay with that, because even when I was bullied as a child, I wanted to be friends with the people that bullied me. I would do anything to make them like me.
Sure.
Because it's like if they liked you, then they wouldn't bully you. So it was an opportunity to create a friend or whatever. So if they pretended to like me, I was like, oh wow, the bullying's gonna stop. But it never stopped, because the next day would happen and something would happen. And there'd be one more person to take away any feeling I had about myself.
Is that like a passive aggressive kind of thing, or do I have the wrong term?
I think bullying could be both. You know, there's aggressive bullying where it's like just really out there, where people are, you know, attacking you or saying things in front of other people. And then there's also, I do believe, like passive aggressive bullying, you know, where it's not so known, but you know there's somebody, like cyberbullying. You know,
Sure.
Cyberbullying, I think, is a passive aggressive way of bullying, because you're not out
You're
there.
not facing the person face to face.
Absolutely. And it's easy to post something on the computer when you don't have to look at the person.
Sure.
And so it affects that person even more. You know, I guess I was fortunate, if there is fortunate, being bullied. I grew up in the 80s, like the late 70s, early 80s, and we didn't have the internet. I don't know if I'm dating myself or not, but, you know, there was no computer. So it's not like I had to go home and face it,
Sure.
you know, on the internet, like turn on Facebook and there it is. So, but what I think people don't understand is that when you're the victim of bullying, it never stops. It stays within you. You replay it in your head over and over, and it almost becomes your identity. And you start to think, well, maybe I shouldn't be around. Maybe I'm not worth it. And then that snowballs into the whole self-harm, and that snowballs into the whole suicidal tendencies.
Sure.
You know, 160,000 students a day do not go to school because they're afraid of being bullied.
Wow, in this country alone?
In this country alone.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, and that's from the CDC. So when you look at that, I thought about that statistic, and I'm like, I was that statistic. I remember there's so many times that my alarm would go off, it was time to go to school, and I would be like, oh, I'm sick, I can't go, because I just didn't want to face the day.
Sure.
And when you stack that, you know, even as a child, and you stack that every single day, it gets to the point, it's like, why am I even living? Because think about something, when you're a child, what do you look forward to? You look forward to going to school and playing with your friends.
Sure, of course.
Well, when you don't have that to look forward to, there is no compelling future. Why are you living? And I'm going to tell you, Al, it is the second leading cause of death between the ages of 12 years old and 24 is suicide.
But not all suicide is caused from bullying.
No.
But
No.
some
I'm not saying
substantial
that.
portion of it is.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's different reasons why, you know, you can go into depression and different mental health issues of why suicide is. But when you look at 12 to 24, and, you know, I can only speak from my experience of being suicidal throughout my childhood, even into my adult life, because of the identity I attached to myself from being bullied.
Well, you know, the funny thing about bullying is, you know, some of it, and I know that it doesn't make too much sense to talk about it in terms of children in this sense, but some of it is against the law. Because if you're discriminating against somebody on the basis of race, religion, their national origin, or any other suspect categories, sex, and, you know, so on and so forth, that is also bullying, especially among children. Among adults, it's also bullying, but it's worse than that. But in the meantime, that is an illegal offense against federal law. But there's other types of bullying that just, you know, the bigger guy is just trying to impose his will upon the smaller guy. It's got nothing to do with any of those suspect categories. And so then it becomes a matter of policing that situation by the adults who are relating with that situation on an ongoing basis. And so often, I'm sure that in many schools, there's an effective program that's going on whereby the adults are encouraged and they actually do participate in watching for that kind of a behavior manifestation.
But what's happening with that, Al, so when you do have teachers that are looking at the bullier, and say we're gonna just put the stereotype as the bigger guy bullying the younger person. Like I said, going back to my definition, that person probably wants control.
Right.
And what bullies quietly. You know, that's where we see the cyberbullying, the passive aggressive stuff, but they still have a following. So they're really looking for that need of connection. So because they're saying it loud, so you get the rest of the students like, yeah, and they laugh at them and cheer them on. So now you have connection. Now that person's in control, and the person also feels self-worth because everybody else in the class is cheering them on, so now they feel like the great guy on campus.
Sure.
So what happens now with the schools, because you're absolutely right, a lot of schools, not all, but a lot of schools are saying, hey, we're a bully-proof school, there's zero tolerance, but what is happening? The bullier still bullies, and then they get suspended for 5 days. The victim has 5 days break, but what happens? The bullier comes back. So I think differently. Like, one of the things that I speak about when I go to schools is I don't just address the victims, and I don't keep the victims in the story. I say, what do we have to do to stop bullying? We have to focus on what are the needs of the bullier. What is that behavior of bullying getting to that person that's doing it?
Sure.
You know, because if so, a behavior will not continue unless it is enabled and rewarded.
That's you.
So when the bullier is at school and they're bullying, and the victim gives them any type of attention, or yet the classmates give the bullier attention, what's happening? That bullier is being rewarded, so it's going to continue. So my theory is that if we understood what does a bullier need, what do they really need, and what are they wanting, and if they're using bullying as a means of getting it, what would happen if we created a different way, a positive way, for that bullier to get the attention they need,
Okay.
to get the self-worth they need,
All right.
to get the connection they need? Would they still bully? They wouldn't have to.
Well, but you know something, look at in high school, you know, so I hate to use a stereotype, but oftentimes it's the guys that are on the sports teams that are out there bullying, but yet they're getting huge rewards for their sports participation.
Right.
So, you know, how does your theory incorporate that, or how does it address that?
Because everybody continues to, they're still getting their needs met through that person, like it's control. So if you are a sports person, doesn't mean that you have all the control on the field. It just means that you might be a star on the field. So maybe your self-worth is filled, but
Okay.
maybe you don't have control. So you know if you bully that person, you're in control.
Okay, all right.
You know, that's why my definition of bullying was it's a repetitive behavior too. It's not just like nice shoes, like, and that's it. It's you're constantly picking on that same person.
Or I think that a lot of times those athletes go home, and like you were talking about, and then they're being bullied at home still. So they need an outlet for that frustration
Absolutely.
and those feelings of inadequacy.
Absolutely, and that does happen. You know, like I told you in the beginning, is that we don't know what's going on in their home life.
Sure.
We don't know if they're being bullied, so they feel like, hey, they're taking this away from me, so let me go get it back from this person. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, there was one person that I bullied in school when I was getting bullied, and it didn't last long. It lasted like a day or whatever, and she just happened to be one of my great friends that I grew up with, and we're still friends today, thank God. But when I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I have to make her feel less so I can feel more?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer was, because I felt so low and so little that if I could have found one person to help me feel better, then I took it.
Now, so then, I mean, it would seem like you're directing yourself towards the answer of making services available to the bullies in terms of counselors or some type of psychological services to help them maybe to get
Figure
over
out,
this need.
right, figure out, like, what is it that you really need? Like, what's missing in your life? You know, my theory is this, that hatred breeds hatred and kindness breeds kindness. one of the things that I do in my talk when I go to schools is that I do the 48-hour kind challenge. 2 days you have to be kind. Just 2 days. Know what it feels like. If you've never been kind before, how do you know what it even feels like? How do you know it's going to even create a better need for you and fulfill you unless you try it? So, that's what I leave the students with. It's a 48-hour kind challenge.
Okay.
And when they complete it, they email me, get on social media with me, and they let me know what did it feel like and what was the outcome of it. And then I send them a free copy of my book.
Okay. Well, your book is interesting because it contains a series of articles written by,
10.
except for yourself, martial artists,
Yes.
instructors. All these guys, I can imagine when they were kids, they were abused kids, they were bullied kids, and they found refuge in martial arts, which not only enabled them to defend themselves physically if necessary, but also helped them to develop their own self-concept and
Yes.
self-worth, to find themselves inside themselves, so
Absolutely.
that they can realize that they're really good people, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the bully tends to leave them alone.
Right.
The bully doesn't get satisfaction out of dealing with somebody who's got a really good self-concept, because that person is not going to react the same way as somebody that's more amenable to bullying because they have maybe a poor self-concept.
Absolutely, because like I told you, when you're a bully, it's almost like you prey, like you seek out your prey that you want to pounce on. So you're not going to go to the person that's a black belt because you're like, oh gosh, I'm not ready to tango with that person. But you'll look at the other person who is maybe not so quiet, because I wasn't quiet. It was kind of.
But that must be why when an adult gets involved in one of those interactions, the bully will usually back off.
They do for a little bit, because there was adult interaction like when I was bullied, but when the adult's not around, what happens? The bully comes back. And sometimes it could be even worse, like, oh, are you a tattletale now? Now there's another new title that's added to you. So it's really approaching what is happening. Like, why is this an epidemic? Why is it happening? And I'll tell you what, like, I'm in touch with some of the guys that bullied me now, and the funny part is they don't even remember.
They don't want to remember.
They don't remember. Like, I'll ask them questions, they're like, I really don't remember. So I'll give them specific scenarios. And that's what it does to people like us. Like, we embed these stories in our head. It's like a movie that goes on over and over that we can remember. I remember when I was 6 years old being bullied. I remember when I was 8, 9, 10, 13, 14 in high school, to the point where I was cutting, just to feel something again.
Isn't that something?
And it's funny because they don't remember. And when I tell them stories, like, they're like, oh my gosh, like, did I really do that? Or, did that really happen? And I'm like, oh, trust me, it happened. When I was walking in the park, you were throwing rocks at me. Yes, I remember that. Sorry you don't, but I do. So for so long I created the story, and for so long I stayed a victim, and for so long my identity was attached to being a victim, until one day I went to a self-help seminar from Tony Robbins, and in 3 days of that seminar, it changed my whole life.
Really?
It created a new identity for me, to realize that my identity started within me instead of outside of me.
Okay.
And it's kind of like what you were saying with the martial arts. And funny you do say that, because yes, the other authors in the book are martial arts and I'm not. And my cousin actually teased me. She says, well, maybe this is a sign for you to go become a black belt. But they build themselves. Martial arts teaches you the energy, the strength comes within and exceeds out.
Right.
So that's definitely a great character building. And, actually, I've in the past I've had my kids in martial arts and stuff, because, just whatever it's going to take to build their character.
Sure.
And so for me personally, I was about 34 years old when I started on my self-growth journey. And it's led me to here, to realize that I don't have to stay a victim from my story. I can use my story to empower others and to just stop this.
It's fascinating, really fascinating. So what kind of things did Tony talk about in his seminar that motivated you to do this for yourself?
Well, the first thing is I walked on fire, which who walks on fire, you know? I mean, I'm looking at this lane of fire and I'm like, I'm not walking. Like, I like my feet too much. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not walking. But I did it. And I didn't feel any heat. I got to the other end and I celebrated. And so it was just a metaphor. If I can walk across fire, what else could I do?
Sure.
What else is stopping me? What fears
It's a
lie
great metaphor.
so deep in
It's a
me?
real metaphor. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's a reality-based metaphor.
Absolutely. So now I've walked on fire about 15, 20 times now. So now it's just like, oh, okay, let's walk on fire. So, but going further into his seminar, Tony taught me that my identity is attached with whatever I say I am. So if I am weak, if I am a victim, then that's pretty much where my identity is. But if I am compassion, if I am confident, if I am beautiful, if I am a teacher, if I'm a leader, then that is what I'm attached to.
Okay.
And so with going through 3 days and understanding what are my needs, you know, what are the needs that I need fulfilled in my life and how am I getting them met? Am I getting them met by being a victim? Absolutely. But it wasn't serving me. So I had to create this new identity that would serve me and light me up. And I knew since I was 13 years old that I wanted to help people. I wanted people to feel happy. I didn't want people to be depressed. And my idea at a 13-year-old mind was I was going to change society. I was going to make everybody nice. Well, then reality hit when I grew up and I realized like that's not really reality. But there has to be something to start changing the way people are to people.
It's a funny thing because on my way here today, I'm thinking to myself, okay, bullying at school, you can kind of think of the ways of dealing with it, perhaps. Bullying in the workplace is a different challenge because you don't have the same kind of control over the actors that you might be able to exert over the children actors. But on the other hand, it still boils down to the same thing. A very important part of that equation is changing the person being bullied.
Right.
So that they can develop a frame of mind that bullies don't want to mess with.
Right.
But of course, there's always the other side of the equation, because in the workplace, if there's a bully and it's a boss, there's oftentimes nothing you can really do about it. I mean, if they're violating the law, if they're being a bully in the area of race, sex, and the various suspect categories, then you can go to the Civil Rights Commission and file a beef. But if it's none of those categories, if it's just making unreasonable work demands that you should, you know, do this, do that, you know, just to have you dancing around for the boss to enjoy the action, there's really nothing you can do about that. I mean, you can improve yourself until the cows come home, but you're not going to be changing him necessarily. He's still in a position where he can, if he so chooses, exercise this influence over you. So your only choice might be to leave the job sometime.
Well, and that's what happened. So, like, let's go back.
I just wonder, and we're having a really nice conversation with Vinu Keller, and I'm just wondering how many teachers don't do anything to help kids, even if they're educated on the subject of bullying and they think in their own minds, oh, that's just kids being kids. That's got to be a big part of the problem.
You know, Al, it's funny that you bring that up because that's one of the things in my book I talked about is that when I told my mom I was being bullied, she's like, oh, that's just kids being kids.
Yeah.
And when I was in school, it was the same thing. Like, the teachers didn't really say anything, you know? And let me try to explain, because some people may think in their mind bullying looks like one way. Like, it's people that are picking on some girls, like the Mean Girls, like that movie Mean Girls. But it's not always like that. When you take somebody's self-esteem away from them in a consistent manner, that's bullying. So at the age of 7, when my teachers were, you know, well, you're going to be a team captain, you're going to be a team captain. And then I was the last one to be picked, and both team captains were like, well, I don't want her on my team. Well, I don't want her on my team.
How many times have we seen that happen?
It happens all the time.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and nobody says anything. Instead of the teacher sticking up and just saying, okay, it doesn't matter, she's on your team. Or better yet, make that person the team captain maybe one day.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Let, you know,
That's a
and
great
that's
idea.
what I say by positive reinforcement. How could we change this? By giving people a positive
Empowering, yeah.
empowerment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, before the break, we were talking about what can we do? Like, what strategies do I give some of the kids that, you know, do have that low self-esteem? One of the things that I was taught by one of my mentors was the mirror challenge. And that is putting up like 7 things. If you can come up with 7 things, it's sometimes more difficult, but 7 things that you believe in yourself, such as I'm a great reader.
Okay.
You know, I'm confident, I'm smart, I'm a good helper.
Good
Things
at
that,
math or whatever.
right,
Yeah.
something that your body already knows, like in your mind you know that that is who you are.
Even if it's something like, I'm really good at playing electronic games.
Sure.
Whatever it is, wherever your strengths may lie, you'll find something within yourself that you can identify as a strength that you have.
Absolutely. So then you list those on separate sticky notes, and then you take another 7 sticky notes and you put everything that you want to be. So if I want to be a leader and I feel like I'm a follower, I might put I'm a leader. If I don't think I'm very beautiful, then I might put I am beautiful. And then we say you do it in the mirror. So I would do it, because I did this too right after I went to my first Tony Robbins event. And I would say it all the time, everything that I saw in the mirror, like while I was brushing my teeth. And, you know, I'd really get it in my nervous system by just like, yes, I am beautiful. I am confident. I am a leader. I am a helper. I am a person who believes that other people have a greater strength and I can help them get to that. You know, whatever it was. And I did it every day for 30 days.
You're speaking positive words into your own psyche.
Right. And what happens with
becomes
that?
your reality.
It does. It becomes your
30
identity.
days is a lot of times to say that over and over again.
That is your new identity. And then what happens is you start living it. One of the programs I've created is Real. Let's get real. Rewrite your story, evolve into it by using strategies, and then start living it.
That sounds like a great plan.
It's a 3-step process. One of the things that I learned going through Tony Robbins seminars is that your morning rituals. You have to have a morning ritual. Affirmations. Everything I need is within me now. And you say that all the time.
People who have the self-confidence and don't need to be reinforced, that might just be part of their natural thought process. I can do that. I can do this. There's a project here before me, I can take on that project and I can handle it. But people that maybe are lacking that type of self-confidence need to reinforce it within themselves. Isn't that what you're saying, essentially?
Absolutely. And also, even those people that do have that self-confidence, those people that we do see as great mentors and stuff, there's still a part of them that has some fear somewhere in them.
Sure.
So, you know, it's really looking at, why am I fearing it? What does fear really mean to me? And what has to happen so I don't fear that anymore?
Sometimes it really does help to have somebody to talk to about those things.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's why I became a coach. I do have a bachelor's in psychology, and I'm a mental health professional by trade. I've been working for mental health for 17 years. And after I went through the Tony Robbins program, I got certified as a life coach.
I just want to say this is not a paid infomercial for Tony Robbins.
Oh gosh, no! I'm just saying how my journey created
Was
me.
helped by that experience.
It was my own personal experience.
Sure.
So, you're welcome.
There's a
Tony.
lot of programs out there. I remember back in
There
the
are.
60s and in the 70s, there were programs, several of them out in
Zig
California, that people they had these retreats where you would go there for like a weekend or for 3 or 4 days, and they would do exercises similar to what you're saying.
Jim Rohn,
here.
Zig Ziglar, like all these amazing guys have taught this stuff too. I just happened to go to a Tony Robbins event. So, you know, on this path, it helped me realize who I am, what my identity is, and where I need to go forward. So I became a life coach. I got certified as a life coach because I too spent years in therapy. I spent 10 years in therapy, and I was still suicidal, and I was still depressed. And I had a plan that I was going to kill myself after my kids were older because they didn't need me
that
anymore.
maybe you didn't have a very effective therapist then.
Well, my therapist was great, but again, it was only great in the moment I was with my therapist, and then I had to go back to reality for a week until I saw her again. So when I went to Tony Robbins, though, for those 3 days at seminar I went to, all of a sudden, I was like, I want to say I was cured. Like I've never been suicidal since.
Okay, folks, you hear that? Save yourself $100 an hour for 10 years, and spend $1,000 on a weekend seminar.
Oops, no presses. We don't know what it is.
We're joking
okay.
here. This is not serious, but it is truthful.
For me, for me
Can
personally.
be truthful for someone.
Absolutely. And so I decided that I was not going to follow my ambitions to be a psychologist. I was going to do life coaching because life coaching gets you out of your story. There's no reason why we need to stay the victim. There's no reason why we need to stay in our past story. We need to move forward. Where we are now, where we want to be, there's a gap that needs to be closed. And as a life coach, that's what I do. This is what I help kids that have no self-esteem. This is how I help kids that have that social anxiety. This is where I help parents understand their kids so they can help them not be bullied anymore. Because, you know, like we said, there's two components here.
Well,
We're
the
dealing
parents
with
may need to go through the same process.
absolutely. They need to know. They don't even know what they're looking for. Like my mom. Well, kids will be kids. And my mom, I grew up with a lot of love from my mother as a single mom. And I knew she loved me. To this day, she's my hero. And I am so blessed to have the life I had with her because I had so many strengths from her. But she didn't know.
Sure.
And you know, you as a parent, if you're a parent out there listening, don't blame yourself. This isn't your fault. You don't know what you don't know.
Sure, of course.
But I am here to tell you that I am a parent of 6 kids. And there's things that I look at with my kids. You know, I look at their behaviors, I look at their grades, and I look at their phones, and I search their rooms, and because I want to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would not want to
The
be
family
that.
structure is not really a democracy.
It's not.
No.
And that's what, you know what's funny, Al? I say that to my kids all the time. I'm like, this is not a democracy. Even to my 3-year-old twins.
They don't have the mental capacity to be able
Absolutely.
to vote equally on these subjects. Parents have to give guidance.
And if we would go back to that, where I'm the parent, I set the rules.
Yeah, the kids would be better
And
off.
you live here,
Yeah.
so you live by my rules. I think that a lot of the bullying wouldn't happen either because there's boundaries and guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you think, I mean, and my son will tell you, my 17-year-old and my 21-year-old, they will tell you that, you know, mom had this rule and that rule and their friends would make fun of them and whatnot. And my 17-year-old, I asked him the other day, I said, so what did you say when they were talking about me? He looked at them, he's like, my mom loves me. She cares about me, and I have rules.
Good.
And he's like, I'm not going to say I liked coming home, though. And I'm like, I get that, but at least you know that it's because we do love you. And I've been that age, so I know.
Well, you're giving
I know what
consistency,
you're doing.
you're giving boundaries,
right.
you're giving guidance, you're showing them right from wrong. I mean, these are all very important things to pass along to your children.
Absolutely. So, you know, we can look at the bullying, we can look at the victims, but we could also look at what's going on in their home life. You know, I personally was bullied throughout my childhood. I was bullied in work areas, and I was also bullied in relationships. I was in an abusive relationship. And until I found the most amazing relationship that I have now with my current husband. But you know what? I would never have found my current husband if I never changed my mindset because I didn't know I was worth it.
That's right.
I didn't know I was worth a man to adore me and love me and challenge me and lift me up. And
That's nice.
you
That
know,
sounds like a nice relationship.
he's amazing and I'm so blessed. But again, if I would have stayed that victim, poor me, I'm ugly, no one's ever gonna love me, then I would have probably stayed in those abusive relationships because that's really what I thought love was. You know, we also have to look at the definition we give things.
That's right. Absolutely.
So, you know,
We're
recreate
using the
yourself.
term love, that everybody thinks they know what love is. It has a little bit of a different meaning for everyone.
Absolutely. You know, I got married at 18. I divorced at 30, and then I just got again remarried at 39. So there was like a long gap that I got to redefine who I was, what I wanted, and really recreate my new identity.
That's nice. That's really nice. Some people seem to get hung up at that high school level. When you graduate high school, nothing changes in so many material ways for so many people for the rest of their lives.
That's right.
And yet they have
We
so
know
much
people like
opportunity
this.
to grow and
Absolutely.
to, you know, become something more than what they were then. It's a shame.
It seems like some of the more popular people, Al and I kind
Right.
of considered ourselves
Yeah.
not as popular as many people. But we, looking back, we kind of thought that the people that we really know, that we're really close to, who were very popular, stayed there. They didn't ever change. They're still in that time warp.
Right. It's another thing no one's talking about, Al, is self-harm. And it's amazing, the statistics. 1 out of 5 girls are cutting, and 1 out of 7 boys are cutting.
Oh my goodness.
So
Ouch.
I went
Holy
on.
crap, that's a lot
That's
of hurting
horrible.
yourself
That is.
going on.
That is.
Good
And,
God.
you know, so I did the interviews for my book, and my book is, like I said, coming out the first week of December. It's called
What's it
Numb.
called? Numb, okay.
And
Oh.
this is a book that I'm
N-U-M-B?
publishing, NUMB. And I named it that because one of the things through my story and through listening to the other 5 girls and women that wrote their story was that we cut because we wanted to feel again.
Oh.
You get so numb inside. And honestly, all of us cut we were bullied. We were all bullied. So cutting was an effect of the cause. The cause was bullying. The effect was cutting.
Wow.
And so that led that to us. That when you have no self-esteem and you feel nothing inside anymore, when you cut,
You feel something.
you feel at least it's something.
It's
So
like a sadomasochistic kind of a.
absolutely. Now for me, thank God it didn't last long because I don't like pain. But you know, the fact is that I did go to that as a coping skill. You know, so that's one of the things that I teach. And I think one thing about me when I do come to your school or I do come to your organization and I do speak is that there's going to be not just one, but many students out in that audience who felt like I did. And I feel like I give them that piece of hope that, wow, like this is where she was. And when I was growing up, we didn't have speakers on bullying. Like bullying wasn't even around. Like it wasn't even a word. You know, oh, they're
Sure.
teased. But now I'm here to tell you that life gets better because you make different choices. Your life is your blank paper. Draw what you want it to be. And then ask yourself, what would have to happen for me to have that life? Ask good quality questions to yourself.
Now, when you say that when people have you come to their school or to their group, where are you from now? What?
I live in North Carolina.
Okay, so you're really not saying that you're going to be traveling to the Chicagoland area to conduct these types of.
I can. I'm actually flying to Boston on Saturday to speak to 2 high schools.
Okay, so if someone wanted to hire you, retain your services
Yes.
for this type of a situation, how would they reach you?
They can go to www.venuinspires.com. That's VEENUINSPIRES, inspires.com.
Okay.
Can I ask something when you're done? Go ahead.
What's that?
I was going to ask something.
Go ahead.
Okay, if there are children who are listening right now because it's 3:50 in the afternoon and they're going through this right now.
Yes.
Okay, so and they're not getting the help from the teachers and they're not, in fact the teacher may even be involved. They're not getting the help from parents because the parents are saying, "Oh gee, that's what kids do," like you said. Okay, so what can they do? How are they going to get some help now before they decide they're going to cut themselves or do something horrible like that? Who can they go to? I mean, do you have any thoughts?
You know,
Can they call the police? I mean, is that a reasonable thing? I know that sounds crazy, but
well, most kids, if they don't feel they can go to a teacher or something, they're not going to feel they can go to the police. So I would say find a friend. Find a friend that you can confide in.
but what if they don't have any friends? I mean, the kids that are being bullied a lot of times don't have
You
anyone.
got to talk into the mic.
I know. I'm just saying, what
Okay,
if they
so
don't have a
I'm
friend?
going to tell you honestly.
Yeah, please.
Kids that are being bullied, there's always one. There's always one friend. There's always a cousin. There's always an aunt. There's always one person. Just one out of so many.
I'm asking just an arbitrary question. Now,
Go ahead.
Is it okay? Can they reach out to the police if no one else is paying attention? Does that
Sure.
sound
I
too
mean,
extreme? Does that sound crazy?
It depends on the situation. If someone's
Yeah,
threatening your
if
life,
there's
then
a-
absolutely.
Something
go
that
to
could
the
be
police.
remedied by police.
But if
Okay.
you want somebody
I mean, it gets attention if
to
you.
reach out, if you know, there's other things you could do besides cutting. There's other things that you could do besides suicide. Reach out to a teacher. If you have that one friend, reach out to that friend. Journal, write it down, get it out of you. You don't need to carry it on you anymore. And there's student.
That's a great idea.
There's like student what do you call them?
And pray.
Counselors, student counselors.
Right.
You know, you have now there's so many the student council that they have like little groups that you can go and talk to.
Okay.
You know, so there are outlets that you can do.
Are there power words that they can be empowered with when they go to talk to someone who isn't paying attention? There's a school counselor that's not listening to their concerns. Are there words that they can use, such as the word bullying or harassment, or what legal terminology or what can they use in
I'm
order
being
to
bullied.
grasp?
I am being bullied.
And I'm going to report it to, if you don't help me?
They can
I'm gonna report it
to,
too.
I mean,
There's gotta be an authority.
If there's legalities and stuff, then of course you can report it to the police. You know, if somebody's threatening your life, you can report it to the police. Like, that is against the law.
Right.
And you know what? Go to the police, because if anything, they're
Right,
gonna have the
exactly.
resources
Thank you.
for you
That's what
to
I
connect
think.
you to where you need to go.
They
That's
So
right.
they
Go
might
to the
be-
police, they'll send you to a
I'd
social
rather-
worker or whatever.
I-
They might be
rather-
aware of this bully for other reasons.
Exactly.
They might have other things.
So
And I
go
would
to the
honestly
police, don't
say
be
better
afraid.
safe than sorry.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, if your problem is smaller than what the police deal with, at least they'll know where to take you to.
Right.
They'll tell you who to connect to.
Sure.
That's right.
You know, but
They have to have something, because otherwise there's kids that
I didn't
feel
have
so
anybody. I
helpless.
mean, I went to my mom, and you know,
Right,
she
and Mom
just thought
didn't
it was
know.
teasing, like she
Right.
didn't know.
Sure.
So, you know, there are people out there, and you know, there are guidance counselors. That was the name I was thinking. Guidance counselors that are there to help you, that are trained in this to help you. So reach out. Know, if I could leave you with one message, it's know that you are something. Know that you have to believe in yourself so others can believe in you too.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
was
Al.
awesome.
appearing in a nutshell today. I think it was a really
It
interesting
was
conversation.
really cool.
I think you gave a ton of really valuable information, stuff that, you know, people need to hear. They really need to hear, because this is not a small problem, and it's not going away tomorrow. It's gonna be here, it's major. Many, many, many people experience it, and if you haven't experienced it, then you're really lucky, because I experienced it, you experienced it,
I've experienced
Delores
it.
has, everybody that I know has experienced it at one
The
time or
nice thing
another.
is that it does go away as long as you can have a little confidence to move
It's
on
building
from
your
that
character,
position.
and you know, if you want to talk to me, I'd be happy to.
Good.
You
That's
can
cool.
tweet me at VNew Inspires. Also, I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, VNew Inspires /aspirations.
Spell it again, honey, please.
VEENUINSPIRES
/ inspirations.
//
Because
aspirations.
VMU can help you, if you don't know where to go, to guide you to the right place, to get the help that you need.
Absolutely. So reach out to me. I'd rather you reach out to me and let me guide you where you need to go. You know, I do coaching with kids for this reason. Parents, please contact me.
Parents have been bullied too,
Yes.
so.
That's true.
So Bully Proof Life Movement is really about getting bullying out of schools, the internet, homes,
Home.
businesses, and mostly out of ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you,
I
Al.
really appreciate your coming around. And if anybody has questions out there, it's VNew Inspires at / aspirations.
That's my Facebook, and then my tweet is at VNew Inspires.
Alrighty, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
That was awesome, thank you.